Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Now NHL, local experts on the biggest stories on the ice. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. We've got all our Locked On NHL hosts here. They're going to recap everything for you from last night in hockey, but we'll start out with the best performance as we saw a Flame hit a career milestone in Chicago.
The best performance.
Hold up, hold up, hold up.
The Flames scored twice in the third period to get some separation late against the Blackhawks, and Johnny Gaudreau's 2 goals got him to a career milestone as well. Our Locked On Flames host tells you more on the big night on offense for Calgary.
What's up, everyone? It's Jess Belmoster from Locked On Flames, and what a game it was. Johnny Gaudreau earned his 600th NHL career point, and he is just 3 points behind Connor McDavid on the season. Matthew Tkachuk earned himself another 2 assists, so he is very close to that 100-point mark, and I'm sure we will be celebrating that at some point this week. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Gaudreau and Tkachuk have really earned their next paychecks in those next contracts, because how on earth could you not pay either of those players? Big cause for concern, though, was Markstrom's goal that he allowed in the second period. It was from the dot, and it was where 3 goals from the game had already been scored from, and it was just a big whiff. Like, it was most definitely a readable goal. So we'll have to see what happens there. He allowed 2 goals on 14 shots again. So I don't know. I am very interested to see what games he starts the rest of the week. I think the only games he should be starting are the ones against the Wild, the Preds, and maybe the Stars. I'm very interested to see if Daryl lets him rest at all. But we'll just have to see. And it was just a fantastic night offensively for the Flames. And we'll see them again as they take on the Predators next. Tune into Locked On Flames.
The Capitals beat the point leaders in the NHL last night in what our Locked On Capitals host called a statement win. He reviews the victory as Washington prepares for a playoff run.
Hello, this is Dan Holme from Locked On Capitals. The Capitals picked up a decisive victory tonight by taking down the Colorado Avalanche. Yes, the Colorado Avalanche, who lead the league in points, they take down the Avalanche and they beat them by a score of 3-2. Like I say, this is a statement win for this Capitals team. This isn't like they beat the Sabres or they beat the New Jersey Devils. This was a big game. It was a game that saw a lot of offensive power. That is exactly what the doctor ordered for this Washington Capitals team. I've said it all along, and just recently they've really ratcheted up that physical presence. You saw Tom Wilson and Garnet Hathaway just flinging their bodies all over the place, taking out those Colorado Avalanche players. It was a game that saw goals by Garnet Hathaway, Alex Ovechkin, Marcus Johansson. So they had the offensive power going against a really tough Avalanche team. Like I say, a statement win and a really positive step for this Washington Capitals team who struggled this season. This really just kind of puts them in a great spot as they move forward to the playoffs. Ilya Samsonov made 24 saves on 26 shots. So they're finally getting that consistent net minding from Ilya Samsonov, and he is making his case to be the number 1 starter for the Washington Capitals. Keep it locked on to Locked On Capitals, and I will keep you updated on all the news on your Washington Capitals. Locked On Capitals, your team every day.
The Avalanche's 9-game winning streak came to a close last night when the Capitals just had one too many punches for them. Locked On Avalanche takes you through a hiccup in what has otherwise been a historic season for Colorado.
All right, so the Colorado Avalanche 9-game winning streak comes to an end at the hands of the Washington Capitals. And the Capitals are the only team that the Avalanche did not get a point against for this season. So you got to give the Capitals a lot of credit. They played a very good game, a good, sound game plan, good defensive game. And when the Avs tied it at 2, and then Washington not that much later come back and scored a third goal, you knew it was going to be tough for the Avalanche to tie it up again, because every goal just seemed to be, they had to work so hard, and that's a credit to the Capitals.
Yeah, absolute credit to the Capitals, like scoring in every frame of the game, taking the Avalanche out of their game, making the second period a track meet, making the Avalanche uncomfortable where they couldn't get on top of their game and play that Avalanche style of hockey. It's going to be another game before the Avalanche tie that franchise record for points in a season. The Capitals were definitely the hungrier team tonight.
Yeah, so you just have to toss it up to that. And the Avs, I thought, played a good game. They fought hard, but sometimes you're going to lose games like this. You'd like to see them battle and come back and at least tie it, because that's what's going to have to happen in the postseason, in the playoffs. You're going to need that fight in some of these games. And tonight, the Capitals, they could have caved, being on the road in Ball Arena where it's tough to win, but they didn't. They just stuck to their game plan, gave up a couple goals, and made it that much more tougher for the Avalanche to continue to tie this game up. So the Avalanche lose it. Like I said, their 9-game winning streak comes to an end, and we are 1 game closer to this team, when it really matters, playing some games in the playoffs.
The Coyotes scored 3 goals in the second period to keep things close, but couldn't find any other offense, and it just wasn't going to be enough to beat the Hurricanes in the end last night. Our Locked On Coyotes host dives into the struggles for Arizona.
This is Carl Pavlak of Locked On Coyotes breaking down tonight's game, Arizona Coyotes versus the Carolina Hurricanes. Unfortunately, the Coyotes fell again, dropping their 7th straight game. It was an expected loss, still hurts regardless. The Carolina Hurricanes won 5-3, but the Coyotes did put up a bit more fight than we would have expected. The Hurricanes got the first 3, but the Coyotes came back with a goal from Nick Ritchie. The Hurricanes struck again, but the Coyotes got 2 more goals, their first time getting 3 goals in regulation this month. Unfortunately, Sebastian Aho would finish it up with a goal in the 3rd period, and that was all she wrote between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Arizona Coyotes. We're going to talk about that and more on the next episode of Locked On Coyotes, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day.
The Devils and Kraken pick up wins as the regular season winds down. This is Locked On Now NHL. Today's edition of Locked On Now is brought to you by Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar out on the market right now. They're made with 100% real chocolate, so they all taste delicious. They're low in calorie, low in fat, low in sugar, but high in protein. They've also got some new puffs, which are protein-infused marshmallow, if you want to check that out, plus a ton of other different flavors. If you head over to Built.com, you can use our promo code LOCKED15. It will get you 15% off your order. Just make sure you use that code LOCKED15 to get 15% off of your order at Built.com. Welcome back to Locked On Now NHL. I'm Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. Let's continue our look around the league with our Locked On local experts.
Let's go around the league.
The Devils picked up a win on the road with a pair of goals in the 3rd in Las Vegas. Locked On Devils has all the details on how they took a win out of Sin City.
What's up? This is Trey Matthews of Locked On Devils, and here is my post-game reaction. So, the New Jersey Devils went into Sin City, and they walked away with a 3-2 victory over the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, this game means absolutely nothing for the New Jersey Devils other than just helping their overall morale to end the season, but this game meant a whole lot more to the Vegas Golden Knights, who are most likely going to have to win out if they want to try to punch their ticket to the playoffs. The New Jersey Devils have been playing some pretty decent hockey the last few games, and they did the same thing to the Dallas Stars, which is they were able to beat them, and now they're making their playoff chances just a little bit harder. So it's nice to see that the New Jersey Devils, despite not being in a playoff situation, they're making it a little more difficult for the opposing teams to get into the playoffs. Andrew Hammond had his best game up to date in a Devils uniform. He was huge in between the pipes. He was the reason why the New Jersey Devils were able to walk away with the victory, because the second period, true to form throughout the entirety of the season, wasn't really good for the New Jersey Devils. But nonetheless, I'm glad that they were able to walk away with a 3-2 victory, and the New Jersey Devils have been racking up a point in their last 3 games. So it's just nice that they're just trying to finish the season on a high note, and I am so glad that we are done with West Coast games. Okay, I'm going to take a Built Bar before I record today's episode.
The Kraken scored 3 unanswered to pull out a win at home against the Senators, and Locked On Kraken has all of the details after the comeback in Seattle.
Hey, Seattle hockey fans, a good win for our boys at Climate Pledge Arena as they defeat the Ottawa Senators 4-2. Chris Drieger in net, only saw 14 shots, stopped 12 of the 14. We talked about it on today's show, on Monday's show. They have to win games when they're essentially punching in their weight. Teams that are eliminated or are in the same areas as far as wins, losses as the Seattle Kraken, and that's what they did tonight. Got the scoring started early, did give up some goals, but who was it but Matty Beniers gets the equalizer, then Victor Rosk and Jared McCann on an empty netter get it done to seal the deal. Again, Drieger not seeing very many shots, so you know I like that. From a defensive standpoint, the Seattle Kraken did outshoot the Ottawa Senators overall, and they get a good win. We'll talk about it more on Tuesday's episode of Locked on Kraken.
The Stars lost to the Canucks last night after a relentless attack from Vancouver. Locked on Stars tells you all about it post-game.
The Dallas Stars went into Vancouver on Monday night and came out losers in a pretty brutal loss at the hands of the Canucks, who have now won 6 straight games. Hey, everybody. Dane Lewis here with the Locked on Stars podcast, coming to you after the Vancouver Canucks 6-2 win over our Dallas Stars. And the Canucks have just had the Stars number all season long. They have now swept the season series against Dallas, and Dallas has just looked pretty much helpless against this Canucks team in all of their matchups. I mean, the Canucks offensively have put up big numbers against this team all season long behind guys like Connor Garland, Brock Besser, Elias Pettersson, who had the final goal in tonight's game, and Thatcher Demko, again, with another pretty solid performance, all things considered, against the Stars team. Rope Hintz scoring twice in this game, once on the power play, once shorthanded. But besides that, not a whole lot of good to report for the Stars team. Jake Ottinger has to be pulled in the middle of the game and replaced by Scott Wedgwood, who eventually gives up a goal himself before he eventually is pulled with the empty net with under 5 minutes to go. And all around a brutal night for the Stars and a brutal start to this final road trip of the season, as it's going to get more difficult playing Edmonton and Calgary back-to-back later this week. But this is one of those games that it's a tough pill to swallow, but the Stars have to find a way to adjust and move on and leave this game in the past, because, you know, thankfully Vegas loses their game on Monday night to New Jersey. So the standings stay the exact same in the wild card race, except now Vancouver is only 1 point behind Vegas. So is not completely out of the picture that, you know, the Canucks could be fighting for the second or even first wildcard spot, because they are red hot right now and they're a tough team to beat. And they have a pretty favorable matchup coming up against the Ottawa Senators on Tuesday night. So got to be on the lookout for them. But of course, also do need to be on the lookout for Vegas as well as Nashville for the rest of the season. But we will talk about this game against the Canucks in its entirety on Tuesday's episode of Locked on Stars. And we will see you there.
That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Now NHL. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you check out your team's Locked On podcast and Locked On NHL as well. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Now.